Okay, lovely. Thank you. Well, welcome everyone to this Civic Events Working Party on the 15th of October. And as usual, the any decisions we make have to be ratified by Leisure and Community or the Town Clerk under delegated powers. Right. Okay, so apologies for absence then, first of all. Number two, Colin.
Chair, we have apologies from Mayor Smith, from Councillor Brown, Councillor Cox, Councillor Lucarini, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, and also Jane Lomas.
Yeah, thank you. And apologies, welcome, Adam. Hello, and Max, and everyone else. And Sarah now.
Sarah was here a second ago. She's
Okay, I missed that
more
bit.
often rejoined.
Okay. Item 3, declarations of interest and requests for dispensations. I'm assuming there isn't any.
No, none received.
No. So, item 4, minutes of the previous meeting to approve the minutes held on the 8th of July. As a true record. Have we got? Yes, we have got enough. Sorry. Although it's not a committee as such.
It's a working party, so you have enough members here.
Exactly.
And even if it wasn't, you still have enough members.
No, that's right. I was just had a bad hair day. Can I propose it, please? Councillor Davidson, seconded by. I'll second it. All those in favour, please show. Lovely, thank you. Right, matters rising not on the agenda. There aren't any because we haven't actually done anything since the last meeting in July. So we'll move straight on to item number 7, which is to look at Remembrance Sunday, which is coming up in 4 weeks' time, whenever it is. We did have a walk around with Danny, Gary, Sarah, myself, Brian and Charmian as well, up to the Market Square. Did you want to say anything first, Gary?
I'll let everybody feed in, but I think my overriding concern, as always, that I flagged last year was the aspect of having town council staff integrated into getting the people, the parade back onto the square. So I just think whatever with that, it just needs to be clear what the requirements are of the town council stewards on the square at that point. But I've no doubt that will come up shortly.
Yeah. Did you want to mention anything about the traffic side of things?
If you want me to at this moment, the traffic road closures request went in quite a long time ago. It's been authorised. I have the road closure notice. I am still awaiting confirmation of who the traffic agency is, who will work with us to do the road closures. There is a from Suffolk Highways to Milestone, which is a contractor, and a Network Assurance. Nobody seems to know what's going on at the moment, but they've assured me as their Network Assurance that they will come back to me forthwith with the details of who will be our traffic provider. As we have obviously 3 or 4 weeks to go, I'm not that concerned because they normally come back relatively late anyway, and we normally have a recce of the site within 1 to 2 weeks. If they're not back by the end of this week, I'll very much be chasing them up on very early next week. So there's no action stations at the moment. It's just that we need to be on top of it. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Gary. Did you pick up anything from that, Sarah, at all with the walk around? That we haven't mentioned?
No, I'm sure you can give a better explanation than me. I've got an order written down, but we can go through that if you don't mention it.
Yeah, okay. Fundamentally, obviously, we got to find out, and hopefully Vicky will eventually find out who's attending, who's not attending, and we can work out the order of the parade from the back of the Arts Centre, which Danny will manage, with Gary being overall in charge, I understand, and saying exactly what time we're leaving and all this sort of stuff, which at the moment is scheduled for 2:20 on the 10th. As usual, we're going to stop at the front of the Arts Centre, pick up the band, who will be now in front of what is the old Henderson's stationers, just to give a little bit more space for the rest of the parade to be in the high street rather than blocking the road at the back if there's any delays. Move down to the Market Square, where the dignitaries and any veterans who, or anybody for that matter, who can't walk, the long distance, and they give the band a bit of a chance to relax for a few minutes while we get everything together. We agreed that the dignitaries will have to go at the back of the parade before the public, so they're at the right location when they get up the cemetery. Up the cemetery, usual thing is there's no delays. We'll go straight up. There's no hanging about at the chapel like we did a couple of years ago, I think it was. Go straight up. It doesn't matter what time we arrive, whether it's before or after 3 o'clock. We're not on an 11 o'clock deadline and everything else. I believe, Max, you're going to be in the parade, I understand, yes?
Yes, I'll be in the parade, so don't wait for me at the cemetery. I'll be there, so I'll file in as normal.
Yeah, and go straight up to the memorial and everything too. And that. Do we know if Father John's definitely?
I believe he's there. I've definitely sent him the invitation. Vicky, I don't know if you've heard back from him, but I definitely sent him the date.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Vicky. Yeah. Okay, great. And anybody else who, obviously Brian Mills will be up there as well. And the bugler, who will be, Charmy did tell me.
She said it was going to be Archie or somebody else, but she said, don't worry, it's definitely going to be one of those two.
Yeah, Archie, I think, is doing the 11th on the High Street. Sorry, Vicky, you're going to say?
I was just going to ask where the dignitaries join in to the parade. Is someone going to make it obvious that's when they've got to join, and who will that be?
Yeah, we got to. When we went on the walk around, we said there had to be somebody who's in the know exactly where they've got to go. That might be a case of, if you're there, briefing you beforehand to say, right, this is where you're going. But there should be somebody at the back of the, I'm going to call it the parade, although there may be members of the public behind them. There should be somebody behind is what we agreed. That's exactly where they were going. Is that right, Gary? I remember.
I think we need to be clear on who, when we use the word somebody, that we know who this somebody is, whether it's a HTC steward, whether it's Sarah, whether it's an other, whether it's whomever. I think we just need to be clear on that, because I've never in 4 years put a steward on the back. So when we're talking about somebody, we've had people generally stewards walking at the back, but with very little responsibility other than seeing the parade down. So anybody who has a task, I think we need to be clear on who this person is and what their responsibility is. So I don't know if people have ideas or suggestions who that might be. I'm all ears to them.
Before Colin comes in, I was going to say, I don't know who's in there, who's available, if you know what I mean. Sorry, Colin, go.
Well, Chair, last year it seemed to work fairly well. If I recall rightly, we asked the public service cadets to stop, and they stopped very smartly just as they reached the Market Square, and the parade went a little bit further forwards into Queen Street, which allowed us to feed in so that we weren't trying to fit in amongst a load of members of the public who have no idea about any sort of plan at all and will not even understand why a group of people who aren't dressed in uniform are filing in. So can we not just do what we did last year?
Yeah, that worked okay. I wasn't there, obviously. I don't know who else was there at that particular point.
Colin, remind me who that was last year. I've forgotten.
I'm sure it was the public service cadets were at the back, and we filed in, or wherever they were, we filed in front of them. So they stopped short, and then the parade stopped a little bit further on, creating the gap for us to join.
Okay,
it worked very smoothly.
okay, the problem being is that when you get to the cemetery, all the dignitaries are in front of a lot of the people who have
Yeah,
to.
and that was said last year, Chair, and all the dignitaries know to tuck in. I don't recall there being any issue whatsoever about people tripping.
Well, we on the discussion, it was agreed we would go at the back, but now we're changing it again, so we need to.
Well, we're not changing it. It was what we did last year, and last year,
but this year
the
we've
dignitaries just went in, and there's a very. It's not as if it's a narrow path between the edge of the path and the war memorial. It's easily 4 people wide, and there's not that many people left to go past. And it worked perfectly. The dignitaries tucked in very neatly, and they all knew they needed to tuck in. But to be perfectly honest, the path is so wide, it just smoothly swept past. There wasn't an issue at all.
Okay, so we need to change those plans again. If that's the case.
Sorry to interject. Who is the person then who briefs the cadets to have that pause to allow the dignitaries in? Was that Danny or Adam?
Last year I did, just before we left.
Right, so you're going in between, or in front of rather, the public service cadets and the rear of the RAF cadets?
No idea. I don't know the order, the walking order. I'm just saying that's what we did last time.
Okay, the plan, as Danny said it, was obviously Legion standards, Army, Navy, RAF, and then cadets and scouts and whatever. So is that where you're suggesting going in between? Which seems a logical place to put you.
I'm just saying what we did last year worked. Why don't we just do that rather than keep
But we need a
changing?
definitive place because we need to allow space for it, of course.
Well, have a look at the running order last year.
Okay, have we got that, Vicky? The running order from last year, was that something you?
No, it wasn't anything I did. All I do is tell you, and I sent the list to you, Brian and Charmian, who the dignitaries were.
Okay. Well, in that case, then we ought to put them behind the military cadets. So they go round, and then whoever else, whether it's military service cadets or whatever they're called these days, and then everybody else. Oh, we need to change that. Sorry, I need to change that on this list. Okay. All right. Can you be officer in charge of that then, Colin?
Yeah, I can have a suitable conversation. That's what we did last time in the car park, and then I hot-footed down to the VIPs on the Market Square, and yeah, it all worked absolutely fine last year. Just do the same again.
Adam.
Apologies, sorry, I was just in the background frantically trying to find the RBL document, which I'll share with you, Colin. There is a designated order of precedence, which gives you in terms of who should go where. And I think there is some local flexibility within that, which I think we used last year, Chair, to put the Civic in terms of the party at the back of the services, in terms of the organisations. So, but I'll share that with you, and that can be made.
Yeah, so that's really what we're now saying is in between that and the service cadets. Okay.
Thank you.
Service cadets, I'm talking about the police cadets, not military service. Okay. All right. Okay, so obviously they'll Danny will then say off to the band, off you go. The band will obviously by this point be in Queen Street somewhere. Up the cemetery, up to the War Memorial, round the War Memorial clockwise. The band will go as it did before, off to the left under the I can't remember the name of that memorial on the left, but the one that's off on the fork on the left. So they will stand there. and obviously everybody else would go around, try and pack in as much as possible. Max will then do Max and John and others will do the service. As before, we're going to be live streaming it, but trying to keep out of the way as much as possible. Hopefully the weather's decent. And then at the end, the Mayor, David Smith, will effectively say, right, thank you very much, etc., etc. Stewards will have to allow space for the band to come through and to the front. The dignitaries will, before that, would have left, and the idea is that as long as they get to the road, and we have got better radios this year, so we'll be able to talk to one another. Hopefully from one end of the town to the other, certainly from the car park at the Arts Centre all the way to the Royal Memorial. And interject if I'm getting this wrong. Once they get to the road, then the band will lead off with the parade in the order that they came in. But the dignitaries go back to the Market Square, will turn right onto Camps Road and be led or directed into the top end of the Market Square. There's no plan to have a dais this year because we think it's high enough to see over, particularly with personnel availability and everything. And I'm only repeating what I've been told. The band will also go that same route, but then they will go over to as you face the top of the Market Square, will go and stand on the top left. And then there's going to be two entrances. There's going to be barriered off, but it's going to be two entrances into the square. One will be for the military side of things, and the standards and all that sort of stuff to go at the front and fill across. And then behind that, then once they're there, the public will be allowed in behind them. Yeah, we know there's not going to be no barrier between the military and the public. It's just going to be so we can hold people back and everything whilst everything's organised. And then there's not planned to be any speeches or anything, as I know. And then Danny will give the dismissal, and then they'll be dismissed on the square with all their parents and whatever stood around. The band, if they want to, can go off behind the church down to the High Street, back to the Arts Centre. But having said that, we get to the point, I understand there's LDN wrestling on that afternoon at the Arts Centre, which means we really shouldn't be taking all our dignitaries back there with all the noise and young people running around and everything else, because it's on exactly the same time. So any thoughts on that?
If the interval is not on at the same time, then there won't be people running around, and we could possibly put them all in the studio, so it's an enclosed space.
Yeah, but they slam on the. I've been there when they've done it. They stamp their feet on the floors and everything. It's quite noisy.
Can I just say that the invites have gone out?
I know.
I mean, we could change it if.
What about the church, Max?
I mean, we can use the church. We need to be clear about who is doing the refreshments and things, whether it's Arts Centre staff bringing things down and just using the space, or whether you're asking us to actually lay on the refreshments and things. But the church space is definitely available. Okay.
I'm a bit worried about taking them back to the Arts Centre when there's lots of people running around and
I'm just looking at the timings. So
it's supposed to start at 3, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're probably coming back just as the interval starts. Assuming 45 minutes or something like that, 45 minutes an hour.
Chair, would I suggest we don't take that risk? We can sort out in terms of, obviously, our catering staff are used to using the church facilities.
Max is happy then, fine. Yeah, I think that's better, don't you, everybody?
it gets very scrappy bringing people the whole way back to the art centre anyway. I appreciate that to a certain extent, tactically, a lot of people decide not to come back to the art centre. But in terms of the spirit, it's intended to offer people a cup of tea and the chance to talk, etc. St Mary's geographically makes much more sense, and you're absolutely right. We who are in council meetings know what happens when there is something happening in the auditorium upstairs. The banging and crashing around makes it sound like the ceiling is going to come in at times, and realistically, exuberance is part of LDN wrestling, and we can hardly expect them to be anything other than exuberant.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's great. I only found out about it because I was updating my site stats document and didn't appreciate the date. So if that's all right with you, Max, so presumably you'll talk or whoever talked to Mel and Helen, maybe whoever is doing
I
it.
can talk to Mel and Helen, and we can tell people on the day.
Right. Does that cause us a problem, Gary, from a personnel point of view?
No, not from my perspective, because the catering team would be separate from my road closures / parade team, so that's not a problem for me.
Have we got enough for the parade and everything?
At the moment, yeah, it's fine.
Okay, that's fine. That's okay. All right. Okay, so obviously, and then, as I said, we have dismissal, and we're going to church now. And then after that, people can do what they like. So go on.
Yeah, Chair, thank you. Just before we get to the bit where everybody it's all finished and we go off into the church, an issue last year was making sure that the people who were supposed to be at the top of the market square were at the top, and obviously Max and Father John kind of found themselves, well, there's nothing much they could do about it. They were onto the main part of the market square, and also both on the main part of the market square and for the band, there was nobody military there to call a halt. And so that was a pinch point where certainly on the main part of the market square, the parade, instead of stopping, just kept on going and effectively almost concertinaed up against the wall and had to kind of shuffle back. We coped with stopping the band at the top, but ideally, and Adam will appreciate this, we need to know how we can get those people to stop at the right point and who are the appropriate people to call that particular command. With the best will in the world, there's no way that Adam and Danny can be everywhere at once. So it may be you've already figured this out, and I apologise, but I just think we ought to just discuss that one out a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, we did discuss it. Gary, did you want to take that one, or
I think this was something that Danny discussed about, did he not say that he would be lining them up? Have I got that wrong?
That's right. No, that's what he said. He said, yeah. So last year, although I wasn't there on the market square, and obviously I was ill as well, but I had actually already briefed, well, it was Ollie at that time. It'd probably not like to be Ollie this year, or it might be Ollie. I think he's still involved with the band. Sent him a map and everything else, exactly where he was going to be stood. For some reason, whether he was told the wrong information on the day, I don't know. But he told me later on he was a bit confused about where he was supposed to go. But what we discussed last week, whenever it was that Danny would make sure that all the military and only the military would go on I'm going to call it the lower end of the square. Obviously, all the dignitaries should be at the beginning. So the idea is, Max, when the dignitaries go, you should be in that party with John and Brian and everybody else, I think.
So we need to try and stick with them on leaving the cemetery.
I think so, yes. Yeah. I mean, it depends on what David Smith wants to do. I'm assuming he's going to want to walk the whole distance.
Yeah, can I just say that
I'm sure he
he's
does.
quite slow at
Yes,
all.
that's right. That's what I was saying.
It was
Yeah.
an issue last year, because I don't think, and in every other year that have been, they've always taken a salute as the band has come in, and they didn't do that because I think everything was a bit behind because he was walking quite slow.
Yeah, yeah. Well, one of the things we did suggest is whether he should drive it and park his vehicle by the chapel so that when he gets to the chapel, he can get in the car and just drive down the road. We'd obviously have to make sure that traffic side of things knows that they're coming. And it depends on what the public's like.
Does he know that? Does Dave know that?
Not yet, no, because we need to talk to him. But it's also whether there's public in the road. That's one thing we've got to be wary of.
They're not normally in the road, to be perfectly honest. They're only in the road as the dignitaries come out and then fill the road.
Yeah.
It would certainly be possible. And I have had the conversation with David. I know that he doesn't want to do the whole route back again. So if we can find a way to get him safely back round, are we likely to be able to park at the church, Max? Is there going to be a space free?
Yes, potentially. Although if you've now got vehicles bringing catering supplies down, that will limit the space.
We can shift those off.
But yes.
Yeah, they can always, I mean, remember, a catering vehicle can always just go and park out to the library or somewhere. The other option we sort of did mention, and I have to talk to the police about it, is whether or not, because they're hopefully going to escort it up there, if they could hang around. I'm not saying they will, but if they could hang around, maybe they could take David back. So at least it gives it some sort of get out of my way sort of thing.
Yeah, you might need a plan B because obviously the emergency services can get called away.
Yeah, exactly. So I need to sort that out.
I mean, as the chief, as the person who liaises, and 80% of my job in the day is to liaise with the road closure agencies and ensure the validity of the parade. I can't see any issues with David driving back because I can just prep the road closure people that the registration and the model of his vehicle, and they'll just open and close and let him in where appropriate. So I can't see that being a problem, to be honest. Those roads they're empty of public, so I can't see there being a problem.
Yeah. So let's assume that happens. Then obviously he hopefully would get back, if not the same time, if before the main dignitaries get back. And Gary was saying that, and don't let me put words into your mouth, Gary, here, that somebody would be directing the dignitaries up onto the top level, if we call it that. And then the military people, the ones in uniform, to the front, with the standards first. And then I believe it was going to be left in the individual, and Adam, excuse my terminology here, the troop commander, if that's what you want to call it, for each group, would be in charge of their individual groups to make sure they spread out and stop when they need to stop and everything else. The idea is we try and spread across the square as much as possible, not all bunched up. Is that the right? I don't know if that's the right terminology, or is that logical?
Yeah, so generally they'd be called squadron commanders.
Okay, thank you.
Within the parade, so you'd have the parade commander and then the subsequent squadron commanders. I think yes, that makes absolute sense. I think what we need to potentially do, and if Vicky could potentially help with this, is just identify the leads of those who lead the military services, or those that are in uniform that are likely going to need to call commands, just so when we send out the briefing, they're fully aware of their requirements, that it will be down to them to halt and make best use of that space available. I think, and apologies, I didn't mention it before, in terms of the parade commander, I think we do just need to acknowledge that we will have officers on the parade. So when we do the dismiss, we will need to dismiss the officers, and the officers will also take a salute alongside the dignitaries.
Okay. So they go up at the top, yes?
I believe last year they won't necessarily need to go up to the top, but they will come out to the front.
At the front, yeah. Okay. Okay, that's great. And the idea, I believe, if I remember rightly, Gary, Sarah, is we were going to organise another walkabout maybe a week before the event. And I don't know whether Adam, whether a weekend, if it's a problem during the week or something, just to go over the final things.
I'm happy to make myself as available as I can. I mean, especially during the days as well. Thursdays, Fridays are generally better for me.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'll make myself as available as I can be with notice.
Yeah. So we can sort those things out if that makes sense.
And Chair, in terms of where people stop, last year's wash up we discussed chalk lines. Potentially a road cone if a chalk line is going to be out of the eye line of the people. I'm just thinking in terms of like the band coming across the top and the first row of the military, knowing where to stop. If there's actually a chalk line drawn, would that be useful?
Yeah, Gary, you mentioned that, didn't you?
I think we did when we did the recce of the square. We did mention where the barriers were going to go, and then potentiality of having some kind of chalk lines, and considering it would maybe help the staff on the square as well if the chalk lines were color coded in some way to represent who goes in where. Whatever, but yeah, definitely. I think with Colin's take on the position where to stop marked out in advance on the day. And I think Danny did say, and correct me if I'm wrong, that he would be available with us to be on the square to put out those markings.
Yeah. He was quite happy about that, and I think one of the caveats was knowing the numbers, how many people are going to be in each group, and not just the military, but also the police and all that sort of stuff. And then we
can mark those out in the early afternoon.
Yeah.
Yes, we do that. Once we've got all the barriers in place, we'll mark those out.
Okay.
Alongside Danny and Adam.
And the barriers I'll bring down. Well, you wanted them, I think, at 11, but I'm going to have to bring them down earlier than that. Okay. But if there's any, where is it? No, 10 o'clock I've got. Sorry, 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock probably be okay. And then obviously, as I say, we go to the church and that's it. After that, I think, isn't it? Anybody else got anything on that? Does that make logical sense? I have got this document which I drew up August last year, but I think Gary did do an updated version because obviously, as I said, I was starting to get a bit going by the wayside by then. So I'll update this draft document based on what Colin said about the Market Square, chalk lines, that sort of stuff. Hopefully it's not raining, so we don't get washed. Don't do a Mary Poppins on us.
Well, I suggest we take some road cones with us as well then. So if it is raining, that we can position road cones at the end of where we want people to stop.
Yeah, I can put those in the back of the motor if it comes to it. I just got to go up home afterwards and pick up gear for the cemetery. So I'll update that and send it out to everybody, and as a draft again, and see what people think. Do you know, Gary? Have we got ideas of stewarding at the moment? I'm not asking individual names, but
no, I mean I won't say the names, but I've got a plan. I've got a plan for my best people to be on the square.
Okay. That's great. Unusual thing he mentions in here about not wearing high vis stuff up the cemetery. Encourage people to go along the back. What's it called? Path and the back of.
Yep.
That's I think it's called.
We always do, yes. The
sort of
to take their high vis off when they get into.
Yeah, but wait till you get the latest document. It's me. It's about 5 pages long, so. I tend not to. I tend to write War and Peace. Okay.
Adam's
left us, has he?
Yes, he had to take an urgent work call, Chair.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
Chair, just on the taking off the high vis, which I entirely understand.
Yeah.
You may recall a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
A gentleman trying to be helpful or quite whatever, kind of interfered, and it was difficult to tell who was the official kind of wardens, and Brian and Charmian were busy directing people. So how does that work exactly?
Well, I think what we're planning to do is, the I don't know what we call them, the lanyards you use for hip pee, the plastic things, is whether we could maybe do those. Is that, and that's not,
Brian and Charmian also said they would have high vis in their pockets and whip it out as necessary.
yeah, that's right, because they want to do that when they get back to the market square, because Charmian said they're quite happy to help out with the stewarding at the square. But in terms
that will apply to all stewards, of course.
Yeah.
Where Gary says they take their gabbards off, they'll have them on them. So if there's an emergency, they'll put them straight back on.
What about those lanyards that the things?
Well, if they have the high vises, they won't need the lanyards, will they?
No, but I'm thinking if it's actually in the middle of the cemetery at the War Memorial, and somebody, as Colin says, starts,
I see. Yeah. Sorry.
Brian and Charmian did request the lanyards after we had them last year, and they were quite appreciative of the lanyards. So I've got no problem with making up a small set of lanyards. The yellow high vis, which are obviously a tier 2 high vis for being on the road, doesn't apply inside the cemetery. So I don't know if there's a consideration if we want to use the blue ones. I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not.
It'd be nice not to at all, to be honest, Gary. I think I would stick with the original plan not to have them.
Okay, I'm happy. I'm just stating it, but yeah, we can have those lanyards made up. They're quite effective.
Yeah, they don't have to, as long as they're not too glary, if you know what I mean. Something a pretty pain, just to make sure obvious who they are.
Yeah,
I think that works well. I'm just having a quick look. I'll try and get hold of the keys for the chapel as usual. I haven't been up the cemetery recently. I don't know what it's looking like in terms of grass cut and all that sort of stuff. Anyone been up there recently? Max, have you been up there at all? No.
No, there's no reason to assume that it's anything other than.
No, they're supposed to have fixed the steps at the War Memorial. I understand.
They have said that. They have said that has been done.
Yeah, so that's a good start. I haven't. Sarah, have you heard from the Sea Cadets at all? Other than that,
no, apart from to say yes, we will do it.
I don't know who's running it now, because Ollie is not in charge of the.
No, it's Mark Critchley.
Yeah, Mark, but I presume Ollie is still managing the band, if that's the right term.
Well, Mark said for me to get in touch with him, so in a minute I'll just say hello, Mark.
Okay, if you wouldn't mind, yeah, just to reconfirm. I'll see if I can find the plan I did last year. I think it was last year, which I sent to Ollie, and I'll drop that over to you, Sarah.
Okay, thank you.
Just write that down. Plan for band. In terms of the piped music, it's an interesting thing. I came across a CD the other day. I don't know what I've done with it now, because I found hundreds of CDs when I was clearing out a box. And it was actually Remembrance, and it was well-known people. It was First World War and Second World War, but things like people making sayings or saying poems from various things. And I didn't know whether that was, or did we also want to stick with music, piped music? Any thoughts? I'm trying to remember what I've done with it.
You mean sort of as we're gathering?
Yes, whilst we're waiting for everything to start. I don't know what we've done with it. I've got loads of CDs here. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll find I'll find it and let you know what it contains, and then maybe I'm not saying all of it, but it might be worthwhile some of it, perhaps. Piped music, side path. That's right. Public. Peeled off at the first spoke. Service. Are you Max? Sorry, there you are. Are you gonna let us have the order of service?
Yeah, I can let you
I
have.
think
I,
print
I
it.
think last year we printed a sort of basic outline order for people, didn't we? And then I sent you a full script. So I can do that again, both of those, if that's helpful.
Yeah, because here we got the blessing, obviously from yourself and Father John if he's there. Then we got the national anthem,
Yes.
which last year was played by the tech team. It was a recording. Are we happy with that again? We don't need the bugler to do it, do we, or anybody?
I think that works fine over
No,
the
fine.
sound system.
Yeah, then I said, thank you by the mayor, allow for David, including asking the public to clear the path back to the main gate to allow the dignitaries band and parade a clear passage. Salute. He's mentioned about that. I've got a young man who used to work for the Arts Centre is going to be doing the filming out on the streets for us, just as a matter of interest. You'll all know him, went to work for the Apex, to give you a clue. So he's doing that for me voluntarily. So that'd be good. So we have a record of that, hopefully, and a decent dismissal and everything. So it's the church refreshments. Tea and buns will be available in the church. Films. Obviously, we've got pack up afterwards. A usual. I guess everyone wants the usual PA speakers and everything in the cemetery. I think they work well, don't they? Allow the public to hear. I think that works well. Comes the public. I've got it here. Communications to the public and attendees, including care homes. I think that was for the link, wasn't it? For the live stream. I have no idea how many people watched it last year. To be honest with you, I've never checked, but
I've always send it.
yeah, I thought you did. Yeah, I've got to say. Radios to be muted when relevant, only protecting vehicles on site. Yeah, I think that's basically it. Obviously, it's not my event. I'm just hopefully helping out. So it's a town council event and the team. Anybody else got anything to add on that?
Can we try and set up at some point the next week the day for the recce? So we definitely have it the last walkthrough. So it's definitely in all our calendars.
Yeah, it's interesting that Adam's available during the week because I thought he could only do weekends, but that's fine.
Thursday would be better according to what he was saying. Thursday and Friday. Thursday tends to be better for Sarah and I.
Did we want to go for? Let's give a date. I was going to say the 31st of October, but that's the day before the Halloween trail, and I think we might be busy on that day. Are we working on the day before the Halloween trail?
Mhm.
Are we? Yes, I don't know.
I don't know. I'm bouncing around, so I guess I'm easy. The week after is obviously quite close to it.
Yeah. What about the 24th of October? Thursday.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Well, and we can sort it out. Any particular time? So I just suggested.
I'm happy to fit around everyone else.
All right. Okay. If there's nothing else, let's move on. And this is really Vicky's department here. Christmas Civic Service. No idea.
Okay, so David Max and I met to have a look through and see what the format's going to be this year. I've contacted Samuel Ward to see if their choir would like to come. They've got a new head of music that only started at the beginning of October, so I've just literally heard from her today. I'm just waiting to hear back about whether or not their involvement, whether they're going to be involved. The invites are sitting in my drafts, ready to go, just waiting to hear back from Samuel Ward, just so I can mention it in the email, because it's nice to say who's going to be there. I think other than that, and getting the service sheet tied down, which always just comes together at the last minute, I think we're pretty much sorted, aren't we, Max?
Yes, yeah.
Unless you want to change the venue. But yeah, everything's pretty much sorted on that.
I know we had quite successful hustings in the church with live stream and everything. I presume you don't want us to do that, do you? I can't see any reason to do so.
No, I mean, I'm very happy to sort of live stream on our
Your
system if
little system,
people
yeah.
want to, and then obviously the quality is not as good as you would do it, but it allows people to join in if they want to through our channels.
Okay, that's magic. Lovely, thank you for that. Anything else on the civic service? It's all, it tends to be Vicky and Max and David, or whoever the incumbent mayor is. Okay, no, excellent. Right, date of next meeting, we're going to be deciding that at the whenever the meeting is later this month, 28th. No, it's not. 25th of November. We're deciding the dates for next year, and then we'll start all over again with next year's civic events. So unless anybody's got anything else, I will